With number 14, we're moving into chapter 2 and some conceptually harder work. And the main idea in chapter 2 is that it's comparative advantage that creates the gains from trade. Two people can gain from trade if their opportunity costs of doing things differ. And by trade lets us reorganize production to let everybody do what they're relatively good at, relatively being the key word there. We'll talk about that more over the coming days. Anyway, the key here first, when all these comparative advantage problems, or a lot of them anyway, start with this information on productivity. It's always either how many minutes does it take you to do one thing, that's actually called a unit labor coefficient, or perfectly equivalently, you get this many of the things per time unit. This one's the reciprocal of the other, as you've probably figured out. The key to all this is to know that when we're talking about opportunity costs, the units are going to be always what we give up over what we get. And you know this, when you go to the supermarket, prices are all, it's $3 for a box of Pop-Tarts. Well, you're giving up the $3, you're getting the Pop-Tarts. It's just the way we talk about prices, costs. So we're used to that. Only these models, we're not giving up dollars to get whatever we're getting. These are barter economies. We're giving up pie to make more cake, or vice versa. So we're asked here, what's Martha's opportunity cost of making a cake? And there's two ways to do this. There's probably more than two, but there's two ways that I would urge you to pick from. You do what works for you. Do whichever is easiest, and you can do it 100% of the time correctly. So one way is just to think about moving the time. So if we're giving up pies, taking time away from making pies to make cake, how many pies are we giving up? How many cakes are we getting? So here, so in terms of the pies per cake opportunity cost, if opportunity. So if we take 1 hour of Martha's time, if we back up, I don't quite know how to use the rewind function on here. If we give up one pie and take that time to make a cake, we give up one pie, then we've got an hour that we're moving over toward cake. And if we put an hour toward getting a cake, we're getting 3/4 of a cake, because 60 minutes is 3/4 of 80. 60 over 80 is reduces to 3/4. Well, 1 over 3/4 is 4/3 of a pie per cake. And that's our answer. And so the answer would be D here. Now, another way to do it that's easy with an asterisk. It's a really easy way to do it, but you got to keep track of the units, or you're going to be wrong half the time. If you have your information in the form of these unit labor coefficients, you can just take the unit labor coefficient of what you're getting, so we'll call A sub L the unit labor coefficient, and you take the unit labor coefficient for cake, divide it by the unit labor coefficient for pie. So it's just one of these productivity pieces of information divided by the other. And it turns out to be you need the unit labor coefficient for cake divided by the unit labor coefficient for pie. And I'll show you how to check the units. You can always just take the ratio, check the units. If the units are wrong, take the reciprocal of that, and then they'll be right. Anyway, the unit labor coefficient for a cake is 80 minutes per cake. And the unit labor coefficient for a pie is 60 minutes per pie. Well, we're looking for the units to be pies given up per cake. So right now it's not looking very promising. But let's do the unit check. If you don't know how to do a unit check, learn how. This was something my physics teacher taught me, and it's been a lifesaver for points in math and science courses for the rest of my life, and social science too. So we notice if we multiply, you can just, the unit check is just treat units as though they're algebraic terms and follow the rules of algebra and manipulate the units. We'll notice that minutes cancel out. We can multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 1 over minutes, and minute over minute is 1, minute over minute is 1, 1 over 1 is 1. So the minutes are gone. Now we've got 1 over cake divided by 1 over pie. Notice I can also multiply the numerator and the denominator by pi. Just again, I'm treating the units just like they're algebraic variables. That's just to see how the units work out. Notice that in the denominator now, pi over pi is 1. That cancels out, and we're left with pi over cake. So 80 over 60 boils down to 4/3 pi, 4/3 of a pi per cake. And because this is in what we are giving up over what we're getting, we know we have the right opportunity cost. If I had just naively said, oh, well, I know it's the ratio of two of those numbers, let's say it's 60 over 80, I would have had 3/4 of a cake per pie, which is the opportunity of a pie in terms of cake. It's going to be the reciprocal of that will give me the opportunity cost of a cake in terms of pie. Anyway, either one of those would do. Practice a lot of them, doing them both ways, and just pick the one that works for you every time and just go with that. Don't overthink these things. Just in your practice is the when you figure out what works for you, and then whenever you need to figure that out, you know how to do it without wasting any time thinking about it.